TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid stresses that the new Iranian government has made it easier for Jerusalem to explain the threats which emanate from the Islamic Republic and its murderous regime. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says he believes that Turkey-Iran relations and regional cooperation will grow stronger during the presidency of Ibrahim Raisi. Greece emphasizes that the European Union is not in a position to deal with a repeat of the migration crisis of 2015 and must work to prevent people fleeing the Afghan conflict zone from illegally infiltrating Europe. The Arab world needs to choose either the Islamic Republic of Iran and its circle of death and terror, or Israel and the circle of life and advancement. This is a message Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid sought to deliver to the so-called moderate Arab nations ahead of returning back to Israel from his two-day visit to the northern African kingdom of Morocco.
אסטרטגית, מה שאנחנו יוצרים פה, או מה שאנחנו יוצרים בחודשים האחרונים, זה בעצם ציר מדיני, תחשבו על זה בתור סוג של עיגול של ישראל ומרוקו ומצרים וירדן, במובנים מסוימים אפשר להגיד קפריסין ויוון, בחריין, איחוד האמירויות, כל המדינות שהן מתונות מבחינה דתית, עם פוטנציאל כלכלי באמת אינסופי, וזה מציב אלטרנטיבה פרגמטית לקיצוניות דתית, גם בונה דיאלוג שוטף ברמה המדינית. הדרך הציורית לתאר את זה שאנחנו יוצרים פה איזשהו סוג של מעגל חיים מול מעגל המוות והטרור של איראן ודומותיה או בנותיה.
Foreign Minister Lapid continued by highlighting that joining the circle of peace with Israel has more to offer than merely a conceptual alternative. Rather, making peace with Jerusalem is naturally coupled with a long list of benefits, from job creation for young generations to gaining access to Israel's abundant sector of technology and innovation.
מול המעגל הקיצוניות והמוות, אנחנו אומרים, אנחנו לא מציעים רק אלטרנטיבה רעיונית, אלא גם כלכלה, מקומות עבודה לצעירים, כניסה לתחומים של חדשנות טכנולוגית, תחושה של שייכות לעתיד במקום לעבר. ואנחנו אומרים לעמיתינו ולחברינו במזרח התיכון, איפה אתם מעדיפים לחיות ועם מי אתם מעדיפים לעשות עסקים, עם סוריה או עם ישראל, עם לבנון או עם ישראל, עם איראן או עם ישראל.
Jerusalem's top diplomat also seized the opportunity to address the stalemate in nuclear talks with the Islamic Republic of Iran, revealing that while he is not a supporter of the deal, referring to the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, as not right, quote-unquote, nonetheless, he does not see a Plan B. Minister Lapid further noted that a global assumption that there would be an effort to close the deal in Vienna before the inauguration of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. However, the person who decided otherwise was apparently Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, who exclusively maintains the final say in all matters related to the Islamic Republic's Ayatollah regime. And while Jerusalem regards the Iranian threat as a global issue rather than exclusively an Israeli challenge, Foreign Minister Lapid noted that the new Raisi government, which includes terrorists wanted by Interpol, makes it easier for Israel to explain to the world what it is talking about. The new government under Ibrahim Raisi, a man who is directly responsible for condemning thousands of Iranians to death for opposing the country's Islamic Revolution of 1979, clarifies that Iran is a terror state with a terror government which deals with blood and death as a way of life. On matters to thwart the Ayatollah regime from acquiring nuclear weapons, Lapid further acknowledged that Israel is in regular contact with the United States and other international like-minded partners to ensure that Tehran does not achieve its nuclear aspirations. In other yet related news, French President Emmanuel Macron held a phone conversation with his Iranian counterpart Ibrahim Raisi earlier this week, during which he called upon the Islamic Republic to constructively re-engage with the stalled nuclear talks in Vienna, with the aim of reinvigorating the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. President Macron, who became the first Western leader to communicate with the incumbent Iranian president, further highlighted that Paris is willing to expand its role in the nuclear talks for the purpose of achieving a viable agreement. He also stressed France's determination to safeguard freedom of navigation alongside regional stability at large, and in Iraq and Lebanon in particular. The Iranian leader responded to his French counterpart by highlighting the Islamic Republic's demand of the United States and Europe to fulfill their commitments in all that relates to the 2015 nuclear deal and the rights of the Iranian nation. With regard to the maritime domain, the Iranian leader emphasized that Iran is very serious about ensuring security and deterrence in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman, and will stand up against anyone who seeks to destabilize the security of these waterways. Meanwhile, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi also received a phone call from his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan, during which the latter congratulated the Islamic Republic's head of state on his appointment. Per an official Turkish communiqué, the discussion between the two leaders focused primarily on Turkey-Iran relations and regional developments. Among others, President Erdogan also stated his belief that Turkey-Iran relations and regional cooperation will grow stronger in all fields during the presidency of Ibrahim Raisi. Turning to the border of Turkey with Iran, where Turkish security forces have stepped up efforts to prevent illegal crossings, smuggling, and also infiltration of terrorists, at a time when a growing influx of Afghan refugees seeking to avoid refugee camps in the volatile region are crossing into Iran, from which they aim to migrate westward via Turkey onward into Europe. Turkey's communications director Fahrettin Altun mentioned in a post on his Twitter account last night that as of this year, over 267,000 foreigners were hindered from entering Turkey illegally from its southern and eastern borders, yet Turkish sources have confirmed to TV7 that migrants fleeing Afghanistan are being monitored as they seek to use Turkish soil for transit into Europe. Meanwhile, in Turkey's neighboring Greece, Greek migration minister has emphasized that the European Union is not in a position to deal with the repeat of the migration crisis of 2015 and must work to prevent people from fleeing the Afghan conflict zone from illegally infiltrating Europe.
Absolutely not. EU is not ready and does not have the capacity to handle another major migration crisis. And we see that in the reaction of most European Union governments. We understand the difficult situation faced in Afghanistan, and we need, as the European Union, to take a more active role in preventing a crisis in Afghanistan. However, stopping return of those not entitled to international protection would send the wrong message. At this time of difficulty for Afghanistan, it would lead more people trying to leave and come to the European Union.
It is important to highlight that when an individual flees his or her country for reasons of feared persecution, conflict, generalized violence, or other circumstances that have seriously disturbed public order and as a result require international protection, they are then classified under the 1951 Convention and regional refugee instruments as refugees, and neighboring countries to their state of origin are required then to provide a safe haven. However, when a refugee decides to leave their host country of refuge for the purpose of improving their living conditions, those individuals forgo their refugee status and are consequently classified as migrants. Nevertheless, the social and economic situation in Afghanistan's western neighbor is at an all-time low, namely the Islamic Republic of Iran. Therefore, a first wave of migrants seeking to transit illegally through Turkey into Europe, as aforementioned, is already being monitored by the European Union.
Obviously, a deterioration situation in Afghanistan is a cause for concern, and the European Union needs to become more proactive in addressing these challenges. And also, we need to work better with Turkey, that is facing the first wave of arrivals from Afghanistan into Turkey. As you know, Turkey for us is a safe country, and we need to support Turkey in mitigating the impact of migration pressure.
Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join the team and me here in Jerusalem to lift up Afghanistan in prayer for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. Separately, I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank all of you who support TV7 Israel. Your contributions and prayer are key for TV7's ministry to both maintain and develop our productions. Jonathan Essen wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and we will see you again on Monday at the same time.